Thanks, Ben. I shouldn't have sent so much to Ben because now about half of my speech he's gotten to you already. But thank you all for coming and good morning. Before I start, one of the things that we do in school all the time is after about 15, 20 minutes, kids start to lose focus. So I wanted to make sure you get your good stretch in this morning before I start speaking so that everybody's got their focus. You got that stretch in? There we go, thank you. So I'm fortunate enough to be the principal of the Active Learning Elementary School. And I'm here today to tell you the story of a journey that we've taken as a school towards teaching our kids how to live healthy and nutritious lives, while also making sure that we have constantly high student achievement. Our school, located in Flushing, our slide didn't go. School located in Flushing, and with our community, we started in 2008. And in 2008, we decided to focus on health and nutrition while also making sure that we had teachers and staff that were really committed to this education. Health and nutrition combined with making sure we had high levels of student achievement. Without that, we would never be where we are today. In 2008, it was hard to get started. As you can imagine, in a new school, there's a lot to do. So initially, our progress was very slow. But fast forward 3 years. And 3 years later, we had our first group of third graders who had now 3 years of health and nutrition education, and they were beginning to really internalize that. As was mentioned briefly, we had parents coming back, and the kids were talking to them about how they wanted brown rice instead of the white rice that they usually had. They were talking about the particular types of food that they wanted to get at the grocery store. And these parents were coming back to us joking about this, but it was a moment of empowerment that the students were beginning to understand what we were teaching them. Also during this time, we started a series of new opportunities for our kids. We had a school wellness council. And in the school wellness council, we had teachers, other staff members, parents, and students. And this was an opportunity to work towards improving our health and nutrition education. So we started revising some policies that for a school are fairly significant. I'm sure you can all remember back in your education where there was birthday parties. Cakes and cookies and sugary drinks at birthday parties. This is something we decided to move away from. We also looked into our snack policy. What kind of snacks are kids bringing on a daily basis? And realized that the Doritos and cookies and sugary drinks that they were bringing was ending up in a crash for these kids. That after lunch, they would get really tired, as that high level of sugar in it caused them to eventually crash. So this was something that we all worked together to change. And then we had a moment. And in every major movement, there are those big moments. Stay with me now for this. In the birth of our nation, it was the Boston Tea Party. In the space race, it was the moon landing. For us, it was chocolate milk. Now let me tell you what happened with chocolate milk. We decided to get rid of it. But this was something that came from our kids. And it was the story about how it came from our kids that empowered them and our community to continue our health and nutrition education forward. In that school wellness committee, kids came in. We had 2 kids on that committee, and they had learned how to read nutrition labels. So one day in the cafeteria, they started looking at the nutrition labels on chocolate milk. Came to the school wellness committee meeting and said, "Why are we drinking this? This is so unhealthy for us." Well, you can imagine an adult's reaction to that. It's kind of astounding. Even though we've been teaching them all about how to read these labels and what it means, kids started to internalize it. They said, this has about as much sugar as some sodas. And it has high fructose corn syrup. And it has things on this label that we don't even know what they are. So this, for us, was our major moment. This was the moment where the kids were empowered to begin to understand what we were teaching them and move forward for our whole school. And it was important to us because it came from the kids. Without that understanding, there's only so much that we can do. Now, we continue forward. With that major movement, we then had an opportunity, and it was time to go and grab it and move on. So the next year, I made sure that we had enough funding to move our science teacher, Christian Ledesma, into a position as school wellness coordinator. So he was able to begin as school wellness coordinator after school and start helping me coordinate more of these larger events where we could get families involved and we could get kids more involved in our community. So during this time, we started having with a program we were working with, Fitness and Nutrition for Kids, which is also called FAM for Kids. They were having food tastings in their classrooms about once a month. So every classroom in our school had a food tasting. And I remember walking into that food tasting one day, and there was a third grader who had been struggling academically. I heard him say as I walked in, he said, "I love kale." Does anybody know what kale is? I have to tell you, that was another moment for me personally, because I didn't know what kale was until about 4 years ago when my wife introduced it to me. So in my mind, this kid was about 25 years ahead of my understanding of vegetables and far ahead of where I was in terms of his general understanding of health and nutrition. And really, that's why we're doing this, to show that empowering those kids makes the difference. So we continued to work on our procedures and work on our programs, and we started a health and wellness week. We had teachers involved. They were doing yoga with our kids. They were doing dance classes, teaching kids all kinds of different kinds of classes. And we had a run around tails where we have our kids and our parents and our staff running around the building just to get that exercise in. And these kids were so excited that they would wear their medal for about a whole week afterwards. And they said, "Oh, Mr. Groff, when's our next run around tails?" They were so excited about that event that we're now doing it annually. After that, we also had our first of several now family dinner nights. And this was an opportunity for us, an opportunity to continue to be more engaged with our families, our community, and a chance for them to taste some of the foods that we were now trying to serve in our cafeteria. These happen to be vegetarian items, but I wanted to be clear that this isn't about a vegetarian agenda. This isn't about just eating vegetarian meals. It's about educating kids on how to live a healthy life. So now, some of the items that they were trying out these nights were falafel and hummus and the superhero spinach wrap. Spinach and mozzarella cheese and tomatoes and a basil pesto dressing. Now, sounds good to me. I hope it sounds good to you. And the families were really into it. So much so that on one of these evenings, I had a father came up to me. He said, "Mr. Groff, I've sent my child to school with lunch every day. But now, after tasting some of these items that you're serving in your cafeteria, I will never send her with lunch again. That was delicious." And again, this is one of those moments, a moment where you know that your community is deeply invested in what you're trying to do. And at the same time, we had our first group of third graders take state tests. And for those of you that might not be aware, every kid, third grade and up in New York State, has to take these state tests. Now, we can have a different conversation about what that means and how effective that is. But our kids were immediately right at the top of the district. They were achieving at high levels already just 3 years in. Were understanding health and nutrition and bringing it home to their families. So our movement was in full effect. We were really excited about how we were moving forward. As we continued on into our next year, we started increasing the amount of health and wellness we were doing and working with our kids. Teachers were even more invested, and we continued to build our programs. In that next year, we had our Health and Wellness Week again, and we were recognized by the Alliance for a Healthier Generation and the New York Coalition for Healthy School Foods as one of the healthiest schools in the country. So again, this was an amazing opportunity for us. The message was beginning to spread, and our kids were empowered to understand it. This next year, we increased to 1 day a week vegetarian items. We had 2 days a week. We moved up to 3 days a week. And the understanding was growing further. We come into just this past school year now. And it was finally time to make our announcement. We had started as a full vegetarian menu in January of last year, so we're coming up on a year. But it was only in April that we made our announcement. And our chancellor of city schools came in to visit. He was eating lunch with our kids, engaged with our staff, and it was an exciting moment. And a moment where our kids and our parents began to shine. One of our parents, who is a PTA co-president now, she told this story to the media many times. The story of her child who was in kindergarten at the time, how she came to our school only eating chicken nuggets for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner. And if any of you are parents, this might resonate with you. That kids get into that fixation where they only like particular things. But now we look at a year later, and she has an opportunity to tell a very different story. Her daughter, Caitlin, is now in our first grade. And Caitlin has had a chance to try many different types of foods. Fruits and vegetables every month at our food tastings. And now she loves broccoli. She just told me actually 2 days ago about how she was asking her mother to buy broccoli in the grocery store. And so this kid, after only a year, has completely changed her health habits. And in turn, taking that home to her parents. They started to have a food journal at home to talk about what she liked and what she didn't like. And so they've been empowered to take it home with them and start to change their families. Kids as well were showing to our media that this was something that they were engaged in. They were excited, and they could talk about it. They had a lot to say. One of our kids, who was in 3rd grade last year, her name was Miriam, and she moved on into 4th grade at a different school because we only go up to 3rd grade. But during one of these interviews, she said, when I go to my next school, I'm going to ask for healthy lunches and healthy meals, and I'm going to keep asking until I get it. And this is exactly what we're hoping for. We're hoping for the kids to be able to take this idea with them as they move on, and to hope to inspire just not other schools, but other kids in those schools what it means to live a healthy life. Now, sometimes it's better to hear this directly from a kid. So, I want to introduce Anusha. Why is it so important that we talk about health and nutrition all the time?
Because so people can live a healthy life and get stronger, build lots of muscles, and get lots of exercise they need, and also especially for kids and language through movement, the teachers can tell us lots of things about nutrition, and then if we learn something new, we can tell our parents about it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I promise I didn't tell her to say that. But that, again, that's her internalizing all of these ideas that we've been working with now for our 6th year. And she understands what the goal is as they move forward in life and what it means to live a healthy life. So now we have this understanding within our community of teachers, staff, kids, parents. They understand that idea of what it means to live a healthy life. But yet we're never done. We as a school have been able to lower body mass index throughout our building. We've been able to increase attendance. And we've been able to keep student achievement at very high levels. We have been able to say that we're now the number 11 school in terms of test scores among about 5,000 within New York State. And for me, I can make that clear connection. That connection between living a healthy life, strong curriculum, excited and passionate teachers, and student achievement. So now we continue our journey. This is one school's journey. This is a story that I've been able to tell you about my school and the staff that are in our school and the kids that have lived this life for now 6 years. But we have a long way to go. I believe that this is something that we can work towards changing education with. But this now needs to become a nation's journey. So thank you for your time.